This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to another episode of Business by the Numbers. I'm your host, Demarest, CPA with Paar Melis and Associates. So after another storm hit a number of shops in Florida, what better time for this episode? Credit for this episode goes to one of my team members, Gail, and her client, Christy, down in Florida. So they were luckily spared from major damage of that storm, and they realized that their weak link was actually their electrical system. So the building was fine, no cars were damaged, but they were without reliable power for days. And even though they had everything else, they were still able to get deliveries, cell phones still worked, they were able to process payments. Without power, they realized that their business came to a screeching halt. The question that they posed was related to a tax break. They're saying, hey, we've realized that we need to get a generator, and is it a good idea to get it this year for taxes? But I'm going to talk about that and some other things that you can do to hopefully be better prepared yourself. Before we get into that, I want to stop and say thank you to you and the rest of the dedicated listeners. It still surprises me to this day when I have people come up or shoot an email, hey, really enjoy the episode. I always like to see those, but if you have any questions, ideas, or want to be a guest on a future episode, shoot me an email at podcast@parmelis.com. And lastly, we cannot forget our dedicated sponsors, NapaTrax and Promotive, for being such loyal supporters of the show. For over 30 years, NapaTrax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the best, most comprehensive SMS in the industry. We'll prove to you that Trax is the single best shop management system in the business. Visit them online at napatrax.com. That's NAPATRACS.com. If you're looking for a full-service staffing solution that does everything from sourcing, qualifying, creating job descriptions, scheduling interviews, to negotiating job offers, Promotive is your answer. Visit them online at gopromotive.com. So, just as we have unfortunately seen in the last couple weeks, if you get the brunt of Mother Nature, it doesn't matter what generator, barrier, or other physical object you have. Nothing will stand up to the abuse of a direct hit of what was a Category 4 or 5 hurricane and the 10, 15, 30 inches of rain in a 12-hour period. But if we cannot do everything that we physically can to protect our business, what else can we be doing to better protect ourselves and our families? This is the question that we're going to kind of dive into this week. Obviously, the original question had to do with physical stuff and physical tax breaks. But while we want to address that question, what are the other things that I have seen happen to shops? What are the other things that I think that every business should be doing? Keep in mind, we are using this, or the timing of this is right behind natural disasters. And this is specifically hurricanes. Does that mean if you're somewhere that doesn't get hurricanes, you shouldn't be worried about this? No. Maybe you're in Kansas. You'll not get a hurricane. I will guarantee you that. But tornadoes, earthquakes, I'm not sure what else you get in Kansas, but I know definitely tornadoes. But this is something for natural disasters, any sort of unexpected event. The number one disaster that we see in shops like yours is generally fire, whether it's caused by a damaged impact battery, whether it was caused by a mistake that a technician made, whether it was caused by an employee's or a customer's vehicle. I think it's really important that I have those 4 different distinctions on there because as I say those, what I'm thinking in my mind is 2 of those cases were covered by insurance and 2 of them were not. And because what caused the fire is the difference, some of my clients made out okay, and the other ones were left to clean up the damage themselves, figuratively and literally. But before we get into some of these other things, insurance and best practice, there is a lot of stuff that physically you can be doing in your shop. And like any times, if someone asks me a question, I'm going to give them the answer to their questions. Buying a generator for your shop, should you do it? And they specifically were asking if there's any credits for this stuff, like renewable energy credits or anything. And for the most part, a generator, whether you get a diesel, whether you get a kerosene, whether you get natural gas, propane, I haven't not seen any major tax breaks for those. There is some stuff, because I was kind of talking about this with one of my friends, supposedly, depending on who your electrical company is, they do sometimes do these where you can get a rebate back on your utility bill, or they have specials on generators. The idea behind it for these utility companies is if half of the grid has some sort of backup power, it's a lot easier to get the grid back online, because I know we went through a storm here, and it was a winter storm about a year ago, and they could not get the power back on because everyone was trying to run their heat. So as soon as they turned the power back on, it was a major surge back onto the grid and just blew whatever the next breaker generator, however electrical grids work. But the idea there is, hey, some of these places are supplementing a generator. I'm not sure. Do the research for yourself. I will guarantee you, if they are doing a rebate, the people selling you the generator or installing the generator will know about that. But perfect timing for this. I've thought about doing one for my house, but I don't generate any income out of my house, right? I have other options. And even for what I do, right? If I don't have power here, if I can go somewhere that has internet, as long as I have my phone and my computer, I can do my job. You guys, if you cannot do business in the building, more or less in the capacity that you are right now, you guys are not going to make the money or burn through some money pretty quickly. So check it out. Usually these things aren't very expensive. Now, a generator for my house probably doesn't have enough power to power a lot of your shops, but if it's something that you end up having to use once, it might not be a bad thing to look into. And if you're making a bunch of money this year and you're looking for a tax write-off for this, it's a great write-off, and hopefully one day it could pay for itself. Well, hopefully it never does, but if it does, that would be a silver lining as well too. So as we get into or kind of stay on the physical aspect of this, off-site backup, and I am talking about your computer systems here. And this is not just accounting. If you have QuickBooks Desktop, meaning you are not backing up to the cloud, right? If you're on QuickBooks Online, you do not need to do a backup. You don't store that. That's stored off in Neverland. But if you physically have a system on your computer, if you load up QuickBooks on your desktop, you save the file there, you have a server in your shop, make sure you are backing this stuff up. And no, do not back it up to a hard drive that's plugged into a USB port. Because if there's a flood, if there's a fire, the server's going to go, and so is the backup on top of it. Now, is it a bad idea to have a physical backup right there and an online backup? Yeah, all of this stuff is now super cheap. When I first started doing this 15, 20 years ago, backing up and offsite backups was that was an industry. People sold that stuff. It was extremely expensive. You could back up all of your stuff online for less than $20 a month. Pretty much guaranteed. If you can't do it for $20, you have a ton of stuff and probably should purge this, but make sure that you're having a backup and make sure that it's something that runs automatically. And I'm really kind of harping on this because this is something we personally see with shops. I'm dealing with one right now. This wasn't a natural disaster. I think the computer itself just kind of went up in smoke. They lost a hard drive on it. They tried to recover it, but they were not able to. So right now, that client's currently paying us around $6,000 because we have to go back and retroactively redo almost 10 months of bank statements, bank reconciliations. Might say, whoa, that's a lot. Yeah, and this client already paid us to do it once. Some of this stuff we can actually save them some time on, but there's no way around it. We are going to be spending hours and hours and hours on this. If you have the luxury to be able to say, hey, someone else is going to do this for me, then great. If you're going to do this yourself, when we went back and looked at it to kind of evaluate how long it takes our team, how long it would take our client to recreate the entire year, we were thinking it was probably going to take him around 200 or 250 hours. Yeah, it wasn't a bad choice for him to say, no, you guys can do this. But realistically, if you fall behind, that's where a lot of trouble starts for our clients. Because if you're working on getting this year caught up, you fall behind on current stuff. Next thing, it's next year and you're still not closed out. We miss tax deadlines. Really, if you're behind and you're just kind of spinning your wheels on this, reach out to someone. You can reach out to us. We do this stuff, get people caught up. Reach out to your accountant. A lot of times people look at this and say, hey, that's a lot of money. Because for some of the stuff we do, there's no shortcuts. It's just labor. But a lot of people don't think about the opportunity cost. Hey, you could be working on this for the next 4 months, but not have any current numbers. If you let a professional do this, it all gets caught up and you still are keeping current with the current stuff. So do a backup. Make sure that backup is working. Pause this episode right now and go check. Make sure your backup is working. And if I'm right, you can send me an email. I will guarantee you at least one of those is going to realize, whoa, that was supposed to back up every Sunday and it hasn't backed up since March. So take a look at this stuff. We're going to be talking about next emergency plans. Go through these situations. When you see some of these sad stories on Facebook of other shops that have been damaged, think to yourself, hey, what if that happened to me? Did we have processes in place? Would my computer have survived? Would the backup that I have on my computer have all that we need on this? Inspect, test, modify as needed. Let's face it, your shop management system is the single most important tool in your shop, period. You need NapaTrax because it integrates with all the major players, including Napa ProLink, PartsTech, OE RepairLink, Epicor, Tire Connect, Mitchell 1 Pro Demand, and more. NapaTrax has leading-edge tools and technology that your shop needs right now. Unlike the other guys, we'll be there after your installation with the best training and support in the business. Your training includes a learning management system that is tailored to each role in your company. Simply put, Trax was designed and built for shop owners just like you. It all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business to help optimize your shop's workflow, efficiency, and profitability. For over 30 years, NapaTrax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the best, most comprehensive SMS in the industry. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice. Visit us on the web at napatrax.com. That's napatracs.com. Shop owners, are you struggling to find and retain top-tier talent for your automotive shop? Introducing Promotive, on the web at gopromotive.com. With over 40 years of combined industry and recruiting experience, we're the ultimate staffing solution. We go beyond traditional agencies. Our team provides dedicated recruiters and account managers advising on processes, compensation, and benefits. We focus on placing technicians and service advisors with shops that offer the best culture, training, and long-term growth opportunities. Trust our experience to match the right talent to your shop. We carefully select shops that value employee excellence and provide an environment for success. Our dedicated team leads the entire process, leveraging our industry knowledge and expertise. Partner with Promotive and experience their advantage to help you build a high-performing team that drives your shop's growth. Visit gopromotive.com today and let us help find and keep the best talent in the industry. Go into emergency plans. Emergency, again, is a subjective word here, and this first one really is not anything to do with natural disasters. I see this in shop management software Facebook groups when people don't have access to their shop management software. NapaTrax is a locally based product on it, so NapaTrax is not going to go down if the internet goes down or web hosting, but other shop management softwares are cloud options, just like QuickBooks Online. And I've seen a lot of people post in there, even if a shop management system is down for a couple hours, how am I supposed to check out customers, right? How am I supposed to invoice? How am I supposed to do DVIs if I don't have access to this program? Let's be real, guys. The only thing that's constant about technology is it's going to break. It breaks so much less than it used to. If you think about how much we used to lose internet, it was a commonplace. Look at it now. Look what happens when you lose internet. The world, as we know it, more or less shuts down. Now, in the case of shop management software, there is going to be some aspects that are going to be limited if you don't have access to that. Let's be real. But I'm surprised at how many people lose what they probably did not too long ago. Print off a paper RO. Do some sort of system where you can at least take notes. Maybe you can mark up the entire amount. Maybe you have customers where they're like, hey, you don't even need to tell me what I owe right now. As long as you have somewhere to write down my concerns, write down my contact information, get a basic idea in front of me, let's go move forward. And when your shop management software is back up, we'll close this out. Think about if you just had that for a morning, 4 hours of production. If you got 4 hours of production, let's say you got 3 techs for $125 an hour, that's going to be $1,500, $2,000 in gross profit alone that you lose in just a morning. But if you were able to do some sort of spreadsheet or paper RO and keep the things flowing on this, then that's money in your pocket. And the thing about lost revenue is if you don't have other sources, it's truly lost. You can't go back in time to get it. Kind of following those same veins, accepting payments without power, without access to your shop management software. I get it. You can't do what they used to do with the carbon copies of credit cards. I get it. Keeping credit card numbers around is not the most ideal situation. But if stuff hits the fan and you got to get stuff done and you can't have your swipe thing on it, then maybe writing down the card numbers, getting the expiration dates. Doesn't mean that I want you to keep those. Doesn't mean I want you to store those somewhere. You could get this somewhere. You could shred it. You could have it be encrypted. There's a ton of ways that you can get secure payments, even if you have to run it at a later time. But again, trying to keep the ball moving, trying to keep the wheels turning of your business is always going to be the best thing for you, your customer, and obviously financially. The last one on here as far as emergency plans is you might have thought this, but backup internet options. We sort of have this in our office. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is something that where we live, backup internet options are a little bit of a luxury, but luckily there's some new players in the game. But right now where we are and we have our business, Comcast Xfinity is the big boy. That is the only one that has high-speed internet. Pretty much everything else is some sort of old school like DSL or complete Wi-Fi system, which for some things, basic tasks, accessing certain servers, yeah, that's fine. But for the amount of like remote access we do and stuff, it's not something that would work for a very long time, but it's still out there. What about for your business? Do you have other options? Or do you have access to a cell network? The nice thing about some of these shop management softwares is it doesn't matter if your computer's down. If you got an iPad with a cell connection, you're in business. You can take payments, you can do DVIs, you can text, email customers on it. You are ready to rock. One of the things that I've been seeing a lot of my clients do is Starlink. Those of you that don't know what Starlink is Tesla's satellite-based internet system. So there's a number of different plans on there, but the most popular thing that I've been seeing getting lately is what they call their Mini 3, I think it is. And what that is it's a little dish. It doesn't look like a dish that you might be used to. It's essentially just like a white rectangle, but you can use it anywhere. It has Ethernet port capability, so you can actually put it right into your wired network if you want to, and it's fairly affordable. Don't quote me on the expenses on this, but from what I've seen outside of the upfront cost of buying the equipment, it's kind of similar to what you would pay for a cable plan. Some of the plans actually allow you to turn it on and turn it back off, so you're only paying for this when you need it. So if you made the commitment, you bought the equipment, and you didn't actually end up needing it, you could actually save some decent money there. One of the things I had to mention here is all of my clients are getting this for their shop, right? That's the only reason that I see this on their financials. But if you're buying a Starlink Mini 3 for your shop because it's a backup option for your internet, that is a 100% deductible expense, and so is the monthly expense of the access to Starlink. I've also seen other uses of these Starlink Minis, and I see people take them camping, to the beach, wherever, because, yeah, it's a backup internet option for your shop and anywhere else. But remember, if you're buying it for the shop as a backup internet option, that is deductible. If you're buying it for a camping trip, that is a personal expense, right? Use your brain on that one. Kind of down that same channel on this is maybe go on a lot of backcountry fishing trips or maybe offshore fishing, or you want a satellite phone for whatever reason. If the cell phone network goes down and you have a satellite phone as a backup option for your business, that is an ordinary necessary expense for your business and 100% tax deductible. If you're buying that same thing and you only wanted to use it on a fishing trip, that is not. Where that is, when the IRS comes and looks at your business, should be right next to that Starlink, hopefully on your service advisor counter. Think about this stuff, guys. There is multiple uses in more ways than one in that saying. So lastly on here of physical stuff, before we get into some of these intangibles, is cash. Figuratively and literally, cash is king. In the literal sense, I would say that this probably used to be a lot better piece of advice before they almost have banned cash in a lot of situations. As my dad has always taught me, and probably your dad as well, you always got to carry cash. Now, it seems like that there is a lot of generations that do not follow that theory anymore and go to any sporting event. Most of those places are completely cashless. Always good to have cash, but not good if it's in a place that could be damaged by fire, flood, tornadoes, etc. on this. And let's be real. If your vendors are only accepting cash on this, are your customers really coming in here? Have some cash, right? It's always good to have cash around. But when we're talking about cash, we are talking more in the figurative sense. Profit dries up overnight. If you have backup plans, right? If you have backup internet, backup power, you're going to be able to get back up and running, but you're probably going to be burning some cash or money in the meantime. How much money should you have in your bank account between checking, savings, money market, wherever? Obviously, access to capital, the more the better, right? If you have access to lines of credit of $200,000, it's like you have $200,000 in the bank if you really need it now. But generally, I like to see at least 3 months of operating expenses, meaning could you run your business, cover payroll, and cover basic expenses for the next 3 months without any revenue coming in? If you could, that gives you a lot of runtime. That's 90 days, 3 months without any revenue, which for most people would hopefully be worst case scenario. But obviously, if you have 6 months socked away, 12 months, more or less, the more, the better to a certain extent. Lastly on here, to get to the intangible stuff, you probably know where we're going on this, but insurance. Just like we were talking about of you need to have cash, even if you have a great insurance plan, insurance is never generally quick, right? They're in a business of collecting your premiums and paying out as little as possible. And one of their biggest bargaining chips is time. So if you have a ton of cash socked away and you have the time and ability to be able to fight with the insurance company and get your last dollar, you're probably going to get a pretty good claim out of this. But I've seen this time and time again for insurance companies. If you're on the ropes, if you need cash, they will give you cash, but they're definitely going to try and barter with you. If you want to let it go down through the full cause, do all of their research on this, all their adjustments, talk to different contractors, you might get $300,000 out of it. If you need that money and you need it yesterday, I'll guarantee you that you're not getting $300,000. They might say, hey, we can put in advance on this, right? Maybe we'll charge you interest, or hey, we can do a cut right now for $225, no questions asked. I've seen this stuff, guys. Make sure you have cash, even if you have insurance, right? Because this stuff goes hand in hand. This might be a no-brainer, right? Of course I have insurance. I'm all good. But what does it cover? Acts of God, natural disaster, wind damage, hurricanes, tornadoes. All of these are specific terms to get out of claims. If you don't have a good insurance agent, you don't have insurance, period. And I have seen this so many times that you guys need to do this stuff no matter where you live. Like I talked about before, the biggest risk for you is fire. And I don't care if you're my client in Alaska or my client in Southwest Florida on this. Something could happen to you at any point. It's not just hurricanes. It's not just fire. Customers driving through your cars, employees driving through your cars, theft, you name it, there's an insurance policy for it. So let's start with hurricanes, right? That's one that caused this episode. That's what we're looking at. And look at your friend shops. Look at the flooding. Look at the wind. Could this be you? So what I say on this is, are you an area that this might happen? If you're saying to yourself, hey, this might happen to me, I'm going to my insurance agent. I'm saying, all right, what if this does happen to me? What if it's wind? What if it's flood? What if it's debris? What if it's something from my neighbor's property that blows into mine and damages mine? I'm going to go down through so many different situations to make sure that I'm going to be covered. Because the biggest thing is when I've had clients that have experienced this, no one ever generally figures this out before it's too late. You generally are sifting through some sort of disaster, big or small, and realize, oh, man, I didn't know that. I thought I was covered there. If you're in an area where this might happen, you need to have these policies and you need to make sure that the policy is going to cover what you think it is. If you're in an area where this shouldn't happen to you, then you might be saying to yourself, well, hey, I don't really need this. This shouldn't happen to me. But believe me, there was plenty of people in Tampa Bay and all these places that thought that same thing. Only 15% of Tampa was covered by flood insurance because most of those people thought that it could never happen to them. What if your building was destroyed? You owe the bank money on it, and now you don't even have a building. If none of this stuff should happen to you, then hopefully it never does. And if your insurance company also doesn't think it should ever happen to you, to get a policy for this is generally very, very cheap. If you're oceanfront on it, your hurricane policy is probably going to be a lot more expensive than if you're 300 miles away from the coast. You can probably get hurricane insurance both places, but 300 miles away from the coast, you might be paying a couple bucks a month versus a couple thousand. Even if you're covered, even if acts of God, tornado, mudslide, everything is covered on this, do you have enough? Most all of my clients that have physical damage to their real estate, to their property, realize that they are not going to be covered for all their expenses. I would say the average is most of my clients get about 50% of what they really need to rebuild the way that they have to. The most common thing is you might be covered for cost in the building, right? Hey, this is what it took you to build it. How much is it going to cost you nowadays? How is it going to cost you nowadays with inflation? And then the big one that was kind of getting the news a lot down in Florida, and I see this happening a ton of places, is you are probably exempt from code violations. You're grandfathered in. Hey, that old dealership was built in the 60s. You can do whatever you want. But like we see down in Florida, and Florida has something called the 50% rule, where if you are improving, rebuilding, renovating more than 50% of your property, you have to bring everything up to current code. And for most all insurance companies, unless you have a separate policy on this, bringing stuff up to code is not covered on the insurance plan. And this is a game that they play a lot. So they would say, hey, we would have paid to redo the electrical system on this, but you had an older electrical system that was not up to code. So you need to bring that electrical system up to code, and then we will insure this. I guarantee that they never told you that when they walked through the house because they never saw this stuff. If you're in a building where you know, hey, that's not to code, that's not to code, even if you're thinking to yourself, I'm not sure if it is or not, talk to your insurance company. All of these questions that I'm posing to you, you need to be thinking to yourself, do I know for certain this is covered? Even if I'm pretty sure it is, I'm going to shoot a message to my insurance agent, make sure that I'm all set. Now, like I mentioned before, are your customers' cars covered, right? I've had a couple people realize that, whether they had customer vehicles stolen out of the property, stuff stolen out of the customer vehicles actually were the ones causing the fire. Is this covered under my insurance policy? On all three of those cases, a customer vehicle stolen, a customer vehicle or property damaged or destroyed inside of my client's shop, or customer vehicle causing a fire in my shop's property, all three of those cases were not covered under their insurance policies. All right. I don't know. Wasn't my insurance policy. I'm just telling you, those are three situations. All three of those shop owners were out of pocket. Two of those weren't too bad. The fire actually wasn't that bad. It was just a lot of smoke. But the one whose car got stolen on this, it was not his problem. It was technically under the customer's. Their insurance was supposedly going to handle it, but obviously the customer wasn't super pleased with my client either. Check out this stuff. Hopefully you're covered. Here's an easy one, guys. And we are coming up to the giving season. So if you want to do this for your technicians, maybe it's a great holiday bonus, and it's probably a little bit self-serving for you. But get your technicians' tools covered under some sort of insurance policy. Even if you do this for your technicians, tell your technicians to also add it to their own insurance policy. Getting the tools covered on insurance is fairly cheap. It's kind of like renter's insurance, where it's a couple bucks a month. You probably will never have to use it, but if God forbid something happens, it's really good. This always surprises me that more technicians don't have their own insurance, whether or not their bosses pay for it, because how many of you would drive around a $30,000 car without any sort of insurance? And let's be real, some of these tools or toolboxes are financed just like a vehicle. And how many of your technicians have easily more than $30,000 in those boxes? All right. Yet fairly few of them are actually insured. Make sure they got insurance and make sure they have enough insurance just like you. Last one on here, and honestly, the most important, is lost revenue insurance. Lost revenue claims for the insurance company are the biggest claims that they can generally pay out on there, and they can truly make someone last 12, 10, 18 months. This is the gold standard if you can get it. You don't get all of the revenue generally, depending on how much you pay. You probably could get a plan that will give you 100% of lost revenue. Usually it's like 80% of revenue. The thing about this is, like, if you have something where you are just directly hit, you're not going to be able to do business in any sort of capacity for 12 months, and you have lost revenue insurance on this, they will actually be able to give you monthly income so that you can pay your employees, pay the necessary overhead that you can't suspend for that amount of time. The big thing is this happened to my cousin. He worked in a restaurant and they had a fire there. And so they weren't able to operate for 12 months and he got paid to not show up for 12 months. It's pretty darn cool. What if this happened to your team? What if you had a fire and you said, hey, the building's going to be covered on this. We're going to be able to get back in there. But guys, I can't pay you for the next year. When you do get to open back up in 12 months, how many of those guys do you think will come back? No matter how much they love you, boss, hey, I got to go work for 12 months. I can't just sit on the sidelines without a paycheck. Now, if you have lost revenue and you're able to guarantee them their income, hey guys, right, for the next 12 months, I'm going to pay you and I'm going to give you every cent that you would have made, and go relax, get healthy, spend time with your family. Luckily, I have not ever seen someone have to do it for that long, but yeah, month, 2 months, 3 months. It doesn't take the sting away, right? It doesn't mean that those clients wish that this stuff would happen again, but it definitely lessened the burden for them and also their team. So while this isn't the end-all be-all of lists, it should hopefully get your gears turning. Everyone always says, well, this is not going to happen to me, and statistically, you're probably right. But if you're one of the few unlucky ones, don't you wish that you did everything that you could to protect your business, your family, and all the families that depend on you for their livelihood? So please share this with friends. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for a future episode, shoot me an email at podcast@parmelis.com. Just want to say thanks again for listening on the Aftermarket Radio Network. You can find all shows on the aftermarketradionetwork.com and on your favorite podcast listening app. So thanks again for joining me on Business by the Numbers. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you all next week.
You've been listening to Business by the Numbers with Hunt Demarest on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Hunt on your favorite podcast listening app. Let him know what you'd like him to cover. His email is in the show notes. Hunt is all for advancing the aftermarket.